Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Some people use many different methods in order to protect their home and their property. Some use firearms, some use security cameras. Natives and tribals would use what was available in the woods. And there are plants in which people can put on their property to reduce the potential of invaders. And we're going to go over about 5 or 6 of them here, depending on the time allowed, that you can put on your property. Now,
and sometimes you just want to block views, block people out,
or critters. Yes. Mm-hmm. And some of these are edible. Some of these are not. Most of these, I believe all of them, can be grown anywhere from zone 4, 5, up all the way to 9, 10. So a very vast variety. And there is dozens of plants in which we could cover, but I wanted some that were universal for all of our listening areas. There's beautiful cacti that would not grow in the upper Midwest, but do work very well for security purposes. Now, the first one is blackberries. As we get into this, now, one thing we want to make clear is plants, you want something thick and wide in order to kind of create a barrier. If you have a fence around your property, people will put these so people can't jump over that fence. There is a width in which they would fall into these plants. Mm-hmm. Some people will put them underneath windows to prevent the opportunity of somebody climbing in because they're getting tore up in these plants.
Or if you have a fence and you have a fence for protection around your home, and maybe you're afraid somebody might try to climb that fence, you could put these in front of the fence, or like a thorny bush, right, or something.
Or behind, like I was speaking about. So blackberries, they are an edible. They are a perennial, and there's several different choices in which you can choose for. They will begin to expand and get wider and expand the patch year after year. There are thornless blackberries, but in this application, you would want the thorned blackberries. There's raspberries as well. There's many different berry types that can be applied in this type of situation. So blackberries is one of the ones that anybody can grow, and they do take a little bit of time in order to get to a mature state. And the biggest downside to blackberry bushes is they grow they do grow quickly, but not maybe as quick as you might want to. And you would need to prune them back if that is something that you would want to contain. If it's on the back side and you're trying to reduce the amount of animals coming onto the backyard, then you would just let it be as nature would provide it for. Second one is roses.
Right, and roses are known for their thorns, and they also can cause, if you have the reaction, sometimes people have a reaction to it, like a little infection, and that can be very discouraging if you're trying to walk through them to be an intruder or something. But for the homeowner or whoever's trying to plant them, they're beneficial because a lot of people like roses, cut roses.
About any color you want.
Any color you want. They're very fragrant at times. So they're nice flowers to grow for many reasons, and also for security. And,
like we talked in the first segment, some of these plants can add value to your property, to your home. Roses are one. There are some very valuable roses, if you can get a hold of them, that do, for whatever reason, we're not flower people, but we do know flower people, and there are, like a classic car. It only gets better with age. Some of these roses are the same way.
Some of them are passed down from generations to generations.
Right.
So, yeah, that's another thing is, there's a lot of different varieties, so maybe you can find one that you like.
And, fellas, if you're listening and you want to kind of incorporate some of these into your landscape to help reduce the the potential protruder or animal risk, most of the wives and girlfriends and friends with benefits, whatever you got, like roses.
Maybe the wives want to plant them for their husband. Yeah. Their husband likes the roses too.
Yeah, possibly. Could go either way.
Yeah, it could go either way.
What's our next one on the list here?
Barberry. So it's like an evergreen type shrub.
It's got thorns on it. Many of these plants, if not all of them, fall into that category. That's why, a tomato plant doesn't make a good security barrier. There's about 400 species or different species of the evergreen barberry. And
it's very hardy. It'll grow pretty much in any soil.
You get 3 to 10 foot tall,
right.
So you can close up a big area.
Oh, for sure. And it's drought resistant, so it's a very hardy plant.
Often planted for the ornamental properties of it, so they can and thorns on it. So good thing for a hedge, some kind of barrier. Blackthorn is another one here on our list, and it can be grown in zone 4 to 8 in various different conditions. And it can get it's the small dark berries they have on it, and it's some people will utilize this for a variety of different reasons, and it can get decent size as well. So some of these you would want to kind of keep in mind. It's a fast growing plant, so you can incorporate that into many different locations if you've got an existing property or you're kind of building, I guess some people will call it, a bug out shelter or secondary residence for an emergency situation. Natives and tribal individuals would take these big thistle-like plants, that these thorn wood shrubbery, and cut them down and then surround their camp with those to prevent animals from coming in because they have these very large thorns. So they would use that as a security measure. So we can kind of take some of that knowledge and utilize that for our property. So in that kind of thing. Next one on the list is honey locust. Now this was we had this on the farm growing up. Several trees on several different locations. What this tree, it's what it is. It has very large thorns on it. It's like 4 to 5 inch thorns and clusters of them like a hand that's poking out. Devastates tractor tires.
It comes out of the trunk of the tree?
The trunk of the tree, the limbs of the tree. Forget about climbing this tree. You ain't going to do it. We never had anything go through tires because we were very cautious about when we did trim them and where it was trimmed and how we maneuvered around those trees.
Why didn't you cut them down?
They were in the woods. They were on the edge of the woods. It wasn't like, it was in the driveway or anything, but we would just cut the overhanging limbs that were in the field.
That sounds terrible.
So the tractor and we didn't get, implements wouldn't get caught on it. But yeah, it's zone 3 to 8, very hardy plant or tree in that matter, and it will devastate your feet, your hands, tires. So if you want to get back at somebody, find a honey locust tree, cut a limb down and throw it in the driveway as they drive over, you're going to destroy all the tires on their vehicles. So we didn't tell you to do that. We're just giving you ideals.
That grows in zone 3 to 8.
Yeah.
So it grows in a wide range of zones.
Right. So there's not too many animals that live. It's a pretty tree at a distance, but when you get up on it, then you realize what's the deal.
So the thorns are like 3 to 4 inches long.
Yeah, 3-5 inches long, and there's a big cluster of them all throughout the trunk and throughout the limbs.
Oh.
Yeah. Didn't know that, did you?
No.
Okay. Well, we got time for a bonus one here.
The Japanese quince?
Quince, yes. Grows in zones 5 to 9, so a very versatile plant. As we talk about these zones, in order to find the zone that you're in, you can go to your favorite search engine or call your local extension office and put in your zip code and say, what is my growing zone? Zip code, put it in. And that way you can have an ideal. And then anytime you purchase a plant, let's say you're in zone 4, you really want a plant that is hardy. That's the definition, the hardiness of it. If you're in zone 4, you want something that's hardy down to zone 3. Because if you're in zone 4 and you get a plant that's hardy for zone 4, you typically have colder temperatures at some point. And if you have that extra buffer of that zone, your plants are most likely going to survive because they are more tempered to a colder climate than what you are. So always try to go a zone colder than what you are in order to guarantee that you're not having to replace plants. And if you are in a zone 4 and a plant's only good for zone 6, and you want to grow it desperately, try to put it, you're going to have to put it in a container and bring it in and do some extra work, for that. But, that's just a little side note there, on this, on the zone thing. So back to the Japanese, how do you pronounce that? Japanese?
I think it's quince.
Quince, okay.
Yeah. So they are native to Asia, and they do produce, it's a deciduous shrub, and they produce this tart edible fruit.
Yeah, kind of looks like a cross between an apple and a pear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it does grow about 5 to 6 feet tall and wide.
It's got thorns on it.
Mm-hmm. It's got thorns on it. You can eat the fruit.
Yes.
Yeah, people really like the fruit. And there's different varieties. So there's going to be a different variety depending on where you are. There's also dwarf variety, and those are more of like a hedge.
Now, with all of these plants, they may not be readily available at your local independent garden center. There may be some searching. Now, blackberry and rose is very common, but these other ones, there may be a little more of a challenge in order for you to locate them, in order to put on your property. And they are out there. You just have to do some searching for them.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.